Desperate Aussies are turning to food banks. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee, and I want to talk about what's happening at the moment as more and more Australians are having to resort to turn to food banks, often for the first time in their lives. Now, we've heard about this and covered this in the past. It was a regular occurrence in South Australia or other states that have heavily invested in renewable power. Once the expensive power bills come in, the banks were direct, or when people were struggling to make their mortgage repayments, the banks and people were turning up at food banks, and often they were employed people that have jobs, but are just struggling to make ends meet, and more people are doing that here now. Now, if you need to go to a food bank, don't feel ashamed. Go and do it, get the food. That's why people donate to this. And we've got quite a variety of viewers here of the channel, and we'll look at those of you that have used, we'll look at the comments. Some are saying they've used a food bank, and others are saying they've donated to it. This is why people want to give to a food bank, to help people out when they're doing it real tough. So don't be too proud. And, well, worst comes to worst, you can always fast for a week and save some money that way. At least the parents can. And you might even get an article on SBS or ABC, guys. But let's have a look at a few things I want to talk about here. And I'd like to start with, this was a post shared to me from Facebook from a community group here in Brisbane. And I blanked it out so we don't know who it is. After recommendations for where there may be food banks sort of places, or where to buy food cheaper. Don't want free, but cheaper. See, this is the thing where people don't want charity. That's the thing. You've got the whole bullshit about dole bludgers, but there's I think in some ways that's a bit of political bullshit. Most people don't want charity. They want to work, and they want to get rewarded for their work. But sometimes it's not. Well, don't be too proud to accept it, particularly if in this case it's a single parent. Friday is payday. Thursday night, I went and put my fortnight shops in my Coles app cart so I could just pay this morning and arrange the delivery. I don't drive. So Thursday night, the total was $193 roughly. Next morning, in a new financial year, the cart updated. No changes in the cart except the price. The total price updated to $222. That's a 15% increase overnight. I mean, just there you go, everyone. 193 to $222 in one night, just because it was that tick over to the end of financial year. As a single parent, it's hard enough with rising rents, electricity, etc., but it seems we all just keep getting kicked whilst we're all down. Like I said, happy to pay. I don't want handouts if free food, but it's getting crazy. I ended up catching a cab and shopping at Aldi, and it was just as expensive. I think a $200 budget for food a fortnight is already super tight, but I just don't know how I'm able to extend that further. And this is someone reaching out to a local community, struggling to get by on food. As I've said many times in the past, we've got a very big family. We got our food budget down really low. Rachel was going through the shops with an Excel on a laptop, comparing the costs per weight. And we ended up discovering, when we last did it, that Aldi was the cheapest. Cheaper than Costco, cheaper than Coles and Woolies, although they are creeping up again. When you do a big shop for a huge family, you notice it more than just one person. That's the difference. And there's this clip here I'd like to play now. This is from what's happening in Victoria at the moment, everyone, where people are just, have a look. This is 9 News.
Victorians have lined up for kilometres today just to put food on the table. Foodbank has been inundated at pop-up drive-thrus, handing out free food to thousands of families battling the soaring cost of living.
My concern with all of this stuff, and this is the problem with our food. Now, we prioritise a lot of meat, fresh meat. We try and do carnivore. I'm eating steak every day. And that, for us, that's a priority. But when you're really struggling, when you're getting really tight, There's no way you can do that. You've got to go real cheap. And food banks, they're not going to give you much meat. If anything, it's all going to be, in the picture here, they've got some fruit and veg, which is good, but a lot of it's going to be carbs and all the sugary filled processed crap. If you want to save money, I'd go and buy all the off-cut meat that people don't want, all the fat, and just boil it up into a stew and with lots of salt. Just eat that.
Adam Hegarty reports.
Thousands in a very long, different Sunday queue, not for the footy or a show, but for a food handout. The sign of the times is purple. Foodbank.
Do you remember this, guys? Well, all the viewers, let me know, did this happen in the 80s when we had the early 90s, the recession Australia had to have? Now, I'm in a privileged position. I've never had to go to a food bank. Remind me. Let me know if this happened at that last recession or if this is a new thing. Because this cost of living increases we've had here, it's adding up real quick. Real quick.
Bills are rising, everything's rising, petrol, everything's rising.
A little bit of help especially during school holidays.
In our cost of living hell, the charity is a godsend. Those at the front getting there 3 hours before gates opened, many lining new territory. Has your family ever sought charity like this before?
No, things are getting hard,
2 drive-thrus, 2 boxes per car, with fresh food and pantry essentials.
We've got a few boxes for you. Do you want them in the boot or the back seat?
At Epping's Melbourne Market and Chobani Warehouse in Dandenong South.
See, these cars all look fine. I mean, these aren't people that are destitute. An interesting tweet that I saw that Martin North responded to, where apparently he's saying 43% of Australians are living week to week on their pay check to paycheck. Nearly half. I can't believe that. Maybe I should do a poll of my viewers. What do you reckon, everyone? Is that what's happening? I guess all the pensioners would be, all the dole people would be, probably everyone on NDIS would be, and then maybe all the lower income workers. Yeah, I guess we could reach 43% here. Australia is just such a divided country. People don't realise there's a huge class divide here in Australia. There really is.
Enough food bank supplies for 2,000 families. It wasn't enough. And yes, many here do work for a living. It's why it's happening on a weekend.
But it's not people on the street anymore. It's people in your street. A lot of the people have never been to charity before and don't know where to go to look for help.
This is the
Well, we're seeing that in the post here, aren't we? He's asking where to go for help. Where to go for help. People don't know. They've never done it.
extent of the turnout. This was the first line that formed earlier today, but those at the end were told to redirect and get to the back of this second line. It stretches several blocks.
She was literally crying as she approached the line, and I said to her, "Are you okay?" She said, I've never asked for help before.
The cost of living hitting harder and wider.
Hopefully these guys can help out a bit, make it a bit easier on the pocket.
Adam Hegarty, 9 News.
So you can see we're having more and more people turning up to food banks. And here, this is an article from Sky News saying 30,000 people are going to these things. We'll have a look at this. Everyday Australians are not surprised by the huge spike in the cost of living as Victoria sees 50,000 people per day turn to food bank services to feed their families. 50,000 people. I mean, this is what you need to have an emergency fund for, everyone. You look at these images, kilometres long, of cars, of people lining up to get their food hampers, Miss Malone told Sky News. When you say first-time people going to food bank, these are people with jobs. Food bank make the point that these aren't people sleeping rough or homeless Australians. These are people with full-time jobs who cannot afford to feed their family or feed themselves. It's absolutely awful. Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. How much of this is due to bad financial management on the individual's part if you've got a full-time job? Okay? Just saying. I'm just saying. How much of it is people, or maybe they fell for the bullshit. They got a super huge loan. They maxed out their credit and borrowed all this money. Now interest rates are going up, so all the other costs are going up. So they're going to food bank to help supplement their mortgage. theory crafting here. Miss Malone and her team approached everyday Victorians in the street to discuss the issue. One woman told Miss Malone, basically people are screwed as the cost of living soars. And, I mean, guys, it's got a lot of room to move. Mortgage payments haven't even gone up that high yet. Not yet. Not yet. So, what's it? Gender quotas for the Liberal Party? Oh, I got to do a video on that one. Oh, they've lost their way then. But I wanted to have a look. I asked the viewers of the channel, I put a survey up there as I do. Have you ever been to a food bank? Please share why in the comments. And of the 563 people that voted in the last 5 hours, 13% said yes, and 87% said no. So I thought we'd have a look here. Hot tip, perishables don't fare well in term deposits. Oh, let's all be friends. Terrible joke. A very terrible joke. Okay. Not really a food bank, but back in about 08 or 09, my mum was single and raising 3 kids. She used to go to our community centre and get some basics like bread and milk. My mum was working and all, but things were tight, and those few free bits saved some money. Well, you've got to look at where you can save every penny if money is tight. Here we've got Neil. I love your channel, living in the UK. You're only one of the Australian voices I trust, as the mainstream media just seems to constantly lie and spread their narrative. A decent independent commentator reports Australian news. Well, thank you. I like that. Thanks, Neil. I appreciate it. Thank you. What about food banks in the UK? How bad is it over there? That's another thing, isn't it, guys? If this is all around the world. Peter, my mother is mentally ill and undiagnosed. She did not budget, and I remember electricity being cut off several times throughout my childhood and adolescence. Oh, boy. Gabrielle, had a couple of tough months. It's a great place to get the basics, thanks to all the food banks out there. There you go. So don't be ashamed to go there and get it if you need to. I mean, the food's going to go to waste anyway. And people donate to it and write it off tax. So why not? I'm an advocate more for charity than for government handouts. I'd rather people go to organisations like this to get help, where people volunteer, than expect the government to come to the rescue. Because I think you'd probably trust Foodbank better. My mortgage went up half a tick. It was devastating. I was doing support work and went with a client who did a few hours a week there, struggling to find work at the moment. So I visited one several times this year to feed my son and I. So at least we're in a situation here in Australia where people aren't going to starve to death. If someone's going to starve to death in Australia, it's probably going to be through malnutrition, through some weird-ass first world diet. Wouldn't even know where to find one. I mean, this is the other thing. Lee here doesn't even know where they are. I mean, there's some people that have never had to go to them. So maybe now's the time to think about that. If you've never had cause for a food bank in your life, maybe chuck them some money. Don't give them food. That the canned food drives, that's all bullshit. Just give them cash. Just give them a bit of cash if you can. Because probably now's the time to do it, because it may be the point of difference for a family. I haven't, but a friend gets free bread from a church. There you go. Don't we all? I guess they give out free stale bread at my church. So there you go. If I take that on the weekend. Peter's going, I fixed their fridges. Glad I've never needed to be a customer. Alan, not yet. Hongster's going, no, but I know food bank bins exist outside my area. One in Sunnybank Plaza outside Woolies. You can buy stuff and put the food in there. I stock up, have enough food for 6 months. Okay, so he knows where what are you going there, or you get the food? I don't know why they do the bins. This is the thing. You need to give them the money, but I guess some people feel like they want to give them actual food. Is that a place where I deposit food at a later time withdraw it? and find out that I left food than I initially deposited. Yes, that's exactly what it is. And you get interest paid in a cryptocurrency that's printed out of nowhere called, beans. Oh, shit, there probably is one, isn't there? You get an NFT can of your picture of your food. That's it. Not recently, about 6 years ago, I was on the edge of being homeless and received assistance in the form of a gift card. Charity didn't offer food. Red Cross also had food available, tinned goods and frozen beans, but you had to make your way to their location, and it was on the other side of the city. I was only able to afford to take the bus once a fortnight. So Mix made use of it. I remember the gift cards when I was working in the Surface Paradise Woolies in high school as a service cashier. Service cashier, yes. I remember when people would rock up with the checks from the charities, and some of them would try to buy smokes, and you can't let them buy smokes with it because that's not what it was for. Here we got Rodney's volunteering. Lee as a student, no job, no pay, go to Foodbank. Then I got a full-time job, donate money to the food banks. Yeah, I was hungry. Victim of a major crime. No interest shown by authorities to investigate. A bit busy collecting fines, etc. Never mind, life ruined. At least I know now see certain entities for what they are, all the best. That's sorry to hear that, Chris. Is that why you head to a food bank, mate? Willow. If I've been short 1 week, I've always been fortunate enough to have enough in the cupboard to just use what I have. That's, you want to get in a habit. I mean, one thing we've started doing, and it's going to not be possible for anyone in this situation where they're needing to go to a food bank, we shop once a month. So we buy a month's worth of food at a time, so we buy in bulk. That's what we started doing when we really had to save. It was just one shop. And then you have to eat everything you have. Every little thing that you have. When we got it real cheap, we were eating carbs, the standard diet. Lots of rice, lots of potatoes, lots of filler food. So, around Melbourne, there are numerous free meals, particularly in the inner affluent beachside suburbs. I occasionally go with one of my friends with schizophrenia. He likes the company. I try and pay for my meal, but I don't get far at one place, which charges I pay forward meals for other people. Andrew's been a volunteer and Bully the Kid. Seeing them operating, they are very busy. So, there you go, guys. Even the viewers of the channel, we've had 13% go to food banks. So, let's have a talk about this one. What do you all reckon, guys? Cost of living is it hasn't stopped. It's just going to get worse. And we're already seeing tens of thousands of people go to the food banks when interest rates haven't even gone up that much. We've got unemployment is still going well. How's this happening now? How close to the edge are these people? I'm sure some of them are opportunistic. There are probably some people who would go there every week and just leech off it. But you're always going to have people like that. It's the people who are working that feel or have to resort to this. How bloody close to the edge are people? What's going to happen if we hit a recession? A real recession, not this bullshit one we had before. One where they're not printing money left, right, and center. One where they allow the market to correct. And we see some jobs get destroyed. What's going to happen then? One thing to do is to prepare. I've fasted for a week, so I know I can go without food. An advantage of doing that is, part of the stoic approach to life. Expose yourself to some of the things that might be a fear. We're constantly filled in all the newspaper articles that having to skip a meal is a terrible thing. Not really. Most of us in Australia are overweight. That's an emergency buffer we've got built into our body. I guess I can't see mainstream media putting that idea forward. What do you reckon? Well, guys, stockpile, prepare, have some emergency supplies, try and have at least a month's worth of food that you've got access to. Buy a bag of rice, buy some cans of beans that will sit there for months that if you ever get desperate, you can use that. Yeah, and you can get by. Salt is a great way to turn any meal into something fantastic. Soup. You know, people made soup. There's places you can get cheap veggies, like real cheap veggies. The cheap stuff they're about to chuck out, you buy it, you bought it in a soup, you got a vegetable soup, you're fine. Cheap meal. Maybe Australians just have to, learn a few lessons of the past. Anyway, give me your opinions and suggestions in the comments below, and let us know your favourite food charity you prefer. As always, guys, thanks for watching. If you want to support the channel, there are a few ways you can. You can financially support us via YouTube or Patreon, use our referral links, buy our pocket squares, or call us if you need an architect. As always, thanks for watching. Have a great evening, and I will see you in an episode tomorrow. Only one video for tonight. I'm getting a bit tired. It's already 9 o'clock. Oh, boy. Take care, guys.